We all have that one number we wish would call us just one more time. A parent, a sibling, a best friend, a goodbye we never got to say. But what if they actually did? What if, months after someone's funeral, your phone rang and their name, their exact name, popped up on your screen? No one else could be calling from that number because that phone was buried with them. This isn't a ghost story. These are real cases, documented, witnessed. Phone calls from people who were already dead. And what they said on the other end will chill you to your core because some of them didn't say goodbye. They said they're coming back. Today, I'll take you inside 5 true stories of phone calls from the afterlife. Strange, terrifying. So dim the lights, silence your phone, and whatever you do, don't answer unknown numbers tonight. In the heart of the downtown Chicago, nestled between the shadows of steel and glass, there stood an aging corporate office building with a reputation no one wanted to talk about. It wasn't haunted in the traditional sense, no flickering lights or slamming doors, but it did have something, or rather someone, who just wouldn't leave. Tony Delgado was a night shift security guard, quiet, dependable, in his early 60s. The kind of guy who'd show up early, drink his black coffee in silence, and patrol the building like clockwork. He'd worked the night shift for over a decade, guarding the same 14 floors with dedication. He was friendly to the cleaning staff, always greeted the cameras, and often whistled the same old jazz tune as he roamed the empty hallways. But one rainy Tuesday night in October, Tony didn't make it home. According to official reports, sometime between 2:40 and 3:15 a.m., Tony fell down the concrete stairwell between the 9th and 10th floors. No one knew exactly how it happened. There were no witnesses. The cameras in that stairwell had been malfunctioning for days, and by the time the cleaning crew found him at dawn, he was gone. A tragic accident, they said. Case closed. But then, the phone calls began. Just 1 week after Tony's death, the building's new night guard, a man named Raphael, reported something strange during his shift. At exactly 3:07 a.m., the security phone on the 7th floor rang. This was odd because no one was assigned to that level at night, and the phones were only used internally. When Raphael answered, all he heard was static. Then, after a few seconds, a faint sound, like footsteps echoing down a hallway, followed by what he swore was whistling, the same tune Tony always hummed. He reported the incident, but management brushed it off as interference until it happened again and again, always between 3 a.m. and 3:10 a.m., always from that same phone line. And each time, the sounds got clearer. Footsteps, breathing, shuffling. And once, just once, a voice, still making my rounds. At first, Raphael thought it was a prank, maybe another guard messing with him. But the floor was always empty, and when he checked the line, the phone had been physically disconnected. No dial tone, no power. So, how was it calling? Building security pulled the call logs. Sure enough, incoming calls had been registered, but the internal ID still showed Tony's extension, the very same phone from his old desk in the 9th floor break room. They checked the camera feeds. On 3 separate nights, at exactly 3:07 a.m., the motion sensors in the stairwell where Tony died triggered. But when they reviewed the footage, there was nothing there. Just the empty stairwell, silent, still, cold. The final straw came 1 month later, when Raphael, now visibly shaken, quit on the spot. He'd answered the 3:07 a.m. call for the last time. But this time, the voice said something different. It said, "I never clocked out." To this day, the building refuses to discuss the incident. The phone line was removed. The desk on the 9th floor was dismantled. But guards who work there now? They say they still hear someone walking those empty floors at night. Still humming. Still checking in. And if you're ever in downtown Chicago and your phone rings at 3:07 a.m., don't answer it. On a foggy afternoon in August 2008, 24-year-old Christina Green and her best friend Lisa were driving through a remote stretch of Highway 50 in Nevada, infamously nicknamed the loneliest road in America. It was supposed to be a road trip. Just two friends, some loud music, and the freedom of the open road. But the trip would end in tragedy. At around 2:13 p.m., Christina's car was spotted speeding around a blind curve, swerving slightly before disappearing off the road into a dense thicket of trees and brush. The impact site was so remote that it wasn't discovered until 3 days later. Rescue teams located the wreckage, flipped upside down in a ravine, 30 feet below the highway. Lisa had died on impact. Christina, they believed, had succumbed hours later from internal injuries. Her phone, recovered in the back seat, screen shattered, battery dislodged, was presumed destroyed in the crash. But this is where things get strange. 2 days after the crash, Christina's mother received a voicemail. It was brief, just 16 seconds long, and left at exactly 3:12 a.m. In it, there was no voice, no words, just the sound of wind, and beneath it, what sounded like crackling, crunching, and breathing. Labored, shallow, pained. It sent chills down her spine. Confused and frightened, she contacted the phone company. They confirmed the call had come from Christina's number. But here's the terrifying part. The call originated 4 miles away from the crash site, an area deep inside the desert, with no roads, no towers, and no signs of human activity. Authorities dismissed it as a signal glitch, maybe a delayed voicemail that finally got through. But tech experts said that's not how voicemail timestamps work. The message had to be recorded and sent in real time. The family wanted answers. How could a dead phone make a call? And from where? But the mystery deepened when a second voicemail came in, this time on Christina's boyfriend's phone, 5 days after the first. Again, it was late at night, and again, the call came from Christina's number. This time, there were two distinct sounds. A weak tapping, like fingernails on plastic. And then, very faintly, what they swore was Christina's voice, whispering, "Help!" The voicemail cut off. The phone company was asked to trace the signal, but it couldn't pinpoint the exact location, only that it came from somewhere within 10 miles of the crash site, near an abandoned mine shaft, known for swallowing signals and confusing GPS systems. The wrecked phone was tested, its motherboard fried, SIM card corrupted. There was no way it could have functioned, let alone place calls. So who or what made the call? Some believe it was Christina's final attempt to reach out from beyond, trapped in a moment of desperation. Others think it was a bizarre fluke of technology, a digital ghost echo, stuck between towers and time. But the voicemail still exists. And if you hear it, listen closely. You might hear her whisper too. In a quiet town just outside Bogota, Colombia, lived Luis Ortega, a 46-year-old electrician. Honest, hardworking, and deeply loved by his wife and teenage daughter, Luis was known for his dependability. So when he vanished one evening after a job on the rural outskirts, the panic was immediate. For 3 full days, family, friends, and local police searched the countryside. They finally found him inside his car, off a cliffside road, badly decomposed, still wearing his work uniform. His phone was missing, his body crushed, and investigators ruled it a tragic accident caused by brake failure. The funeral was held quietly. His wife placed a photo and a few personal belongings in the coffin, including an old smartphone, cracked but sentimental, that he had used for years. It hadn't worked in months, but she wanted him to have it. 2 days later, the phone rang. Luis's daughter, Camila, was up late studying when her phone lit up. It was around 1:33 a.m., and the caller ID read, "Papa calling." She froze. She didn't answer. She screamed for her mother, who saw the same thing. Luis's name on the screen, calling from his old number. They didn't answer. But when they checked the voicemail, things got worse. There was no voice, just a low clicking sound, almost like static. Then a few seconds of silence, followed by 3 taps. Tap, 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 almost like knocking. The call ended. Shaking, they contacted the phone company. The signal had pinged from a rural cemetery tower, the same area where Luis was buried. Yet the old phone had no SIM card, no battery. It was sealed in the coffin with him. That should have been the end. But the calls didn't stop. Each night that week, around the same time, Camilla received another call, always from her father, always silent. But one time, the voicemail included a muffled voice, cold, so cold. Terrified, the family had the grave reopened. But when they did, the coffin was untouched. His body was intact. And the phone? Still in his hands. Dead, no charge, no SIM. The family, shaken, moved to a different town. They changed numbers. Yet sometimes, late at night, Camilla's phone still lights up with unknown caller. And when she listens, it's the same sound. Tap, tap, tap. As if someone buried deep is still trying to call home. In October 2012, 29-year-old Rachel Green, a solo traveler and avid hiker from Oregon, set out on a multi-day trek through the Sawtooth Mountains in Idaho. She was experienced, well-equipped, and always informed her parents before any trip. But this time, something went horribly wrong. 3 days into the hike, Rachel's GPS beacon stopped transmitting. Her family waited for a day, then contacted authorities. Search and rescue teams began sweeping the area, battling snow, winds, and dropping temperatures. After 5 days, they found Rachel's body, face down near a frozen stream. The coroner estimated she had been dead for at least 48 hours. No injuries, no foul play. Just signs of hypothermia, likely after getting lost in the storm. Her backpack was intact, phone off, camera full of pictures from the trail. Her journal, found nearby, had one final entry. I think I took a wrong turn, but I'm not scared. I'm listening. Listening. Her parents were devastated, and her body was flown home for burial. Then, something terrifying happened. 2 nights after the funeral, Rachel's sister received a voicemail from Rachel's number. At first, she thought it was a prank or a delayed text. But this was a new message, recorded at 2:17 a.m. She played it. There was heavy breathing, like someone running, then a sudden hissing whisper, "Don't come here. They're not gone." And then, silence. The voicemail was sent from the exact same area Rachel's body was found. But her phone was now with police, locked in evidence. Investigators confirmed the SIM had been removed and stored separately. The number had no signal, and the phone was physically powered off. But the creepiest part? When the audio was cleaned up by a digital forensic expert, they found a second voice, barely audible underneath the whisper. It wasn't Rachel's. It was deeper, slower, speaking what sounded like a backwards phrase. When reversed, it said, "She never left." After that, no more calls came. The phone never pinged again. But Rachel's sister still wakes up sometimes, checking her phone, terrified it will ring again. And in the dream, it always ends the same way. She answers and hears her sister's voice whispering, "It's not over." In the summer of 2008, David Miller, a 38-year-old paramedic from New Jersey, didn't come home from his overnight shift. His wife, Elena, assumed he was stuck at work, emergencies, long hours. It happened often. But by mid-morning, something felt wrong. He wasn't answering his phone, and none of his coworkers had seen him since the previous night. Around noon, the police arrived at her door. They had found David's car crashed in a ravine on a back road, flipped and burned. The impact had likely killed him instantly. He had been pinned behind the wheel, and the fire destroyed most of the vehicle. Elena collapsed with grief. The timeline made sense. He had likely crashed shortly after leaving the hospital around 3:15 a.m. The authorities had already pulled dental records to confirm his identity. But that night, things took a sinister turn. At exactly 2:41 a.m., Elena's cell phone began to ring. The caller ID, David. Frozen in shock, she answered. Static. Silence. Then, his voice. "I'm okay, don't worry about me, I'll be home soon." It was clear, calm, and unmistakably David. Her hands shook. She tried speaking, asking where he was, but the call disconnected. Elena called the number back, straight to voicemail. She called the police, desperate, crying, telling them David was alive. He had just called her. They checked the cell tower logs. That number had not made any outgoing calls that night. Investigators dug deeper and found something chilling. David's SIM card had melted in the fire. There was no way that phone could have powered on, let alone made a call. But the call was real, recorded on Elena's phone log and on the cell tower's ping system. The GPS location of the call? A dead zone in the forest. No signal, no power lines, just trees and fog. But that's not where it ends. In the days after the funeral, Elena began hearing her husband's ringtone at night. Not from her phone, but from inside the house. The exact ringtone he had set before he died. Always at the same time, 2:41 a.m. Once, she followed the sound down the hall, and it stopped right in front of the closet where David kept his uniforms. She opened it. Nothing there except his folded badge and his old backup phone. It had no battery, just a faint, lingering smell of burned rubber. Today, Elena says she never received another call, but she still keeps that voicemail saved. Not for comfort, but as a reminder that some goodbyes don't stick. 5 calls, 5 voices that should have been lost forever. And yet, somehow, they reach through time, fire, even death itself, just to say something we often take for granted. I'm okay. I love you. Goodbye. Maybe it's a glitch in the system. Maybe it's wishful thinking, or maybe love doesn't die when the body does. And if you've ever lost someone, you know how powerful one more phone call would be. One more chance to hear their voice, to say the words you never got to say. So before you go, remember this. Cherish your people. Say what matters while you still can. Because tomorrow might be too late. And if your phone ever rings in the middle of the night, don't ignore it. It might be someone you thought you'd lost, calling to remind you they never truly left. If this story touched you, subscribe. We tell the stories others are too afraid to believe, but somehow, deep down, you know they're real. This is Story Lose, where every story brings you closer to the unknown, where every